What's going on, guys, and welcome back to this week's Bourbon of the Week, a special Halloween edition. That's why we are doing Colonel E.H. Taylor out of Buffalo Trace, because as you already know, the place is haunted. We've got a story for you coming from a good friend of ours, Logan, from Basement Rickhouse. Make sure you check him out on TikTok and on Instagram. That's going to be our Bourbon Bomb of the Week. But everybody knows before we get started on all of that, time for the traditional sip. Damn. So that's right, this is our special Halloween edition, and I like to be honest with you guys. So I have these lights, right? Where did I put my remote? I put my remote over there. I have the lights. They look great. We're doing orange for Halloween. We got the orange and black. I got some paint on this sweatshirt, but it's whatever. Before, though, I shot this whole video. I already did it. I already did the whole thing. I already know what the score is. You don't, but I do. I shot the whole video, and the lights were... I had them flashing between, like, orange and white and different colors, and it looked awesome. Until you go to edit the video and the camera just keeps picking up on the lights rather than me. So like, but the flat. Anyway, it looked awful. So we gotta do it again. I'm almost ran out. I'm gonna run out. I'm gonna shoot this video. We're gonna chug the rest of this bottle because why the hell not? And we're just gonna run out of E.H. Taylor. Now I normally have a backup bottle of this. I don't have one because it's a little bit hard to find. It's not crazy hard to find, but you know, when it drops, you gotta get there right away. So that's what we're gonna do today. You know the rules. My name's Chris. I'm your host for today. Price, taste, drinkability. We rank it on a scale of 10. And what I'm going to do from now on, since we've got so check me out on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. Every Tuesday for a normal Wednesday review, I'll drop an image of the bourbon that I'm going to review. You can go on and try and guess my score. If you guess the closest, I'll give you a shout out on the channel, as well as enter you in a monthly drawing to win some cool stuff, such as custom Glencairns. We've got hoodies. We've got t-shirts. I'm thinking hats next. But anyway, you can win cool prizes and you can go on and guess the score. Well, we've gotten so many people guessing lately that the scores are just so close, right? You got like, I'll give it an 8.4 and there will be an 8.41, 8.42, 8.395. Like, we're going to start doing double decimals. I'm going out 2 decimals. Now, I'll still round, but that'll give us a lot more like 8.25s instead of 8.2s. You know what I mean? It makes sense mathematically, I think. We're going to find out. We're going 2 decimals out. Anyway. Colonel E.H. Taylor, small batch, bottled in bond, 100 proof, non-age stated, Sazerac, Buffalo Trace. This is mash bill number 1, I believe, right? Is that correct? Which is their low rye mash bill, somewhere less than 10%, 10% or less, which is fantastic. It's one, I mean, I love a high rye, but I also love, you know, that sweetness that you get on a low rye. This is a little bit harder to find, like I mentioned. Let's just get right into it. I don't want to make this a long episode. You guys got to get out and do your candy today. I already did this episode. I'm actually going to, you know, run through the scores again in my head just to make sure. But this one, 100 proof, drinkability, that's where we start. We're going to give this a pretty good score when it comes to drinkability. It's easy to drink. It's smooth. For a 100 proof bourbon, Buffalo Trace knows what they're doing. They can put out pretty much any type of flavor profile because they have so much inventory in their warehouses. The one thing that bothers me, which we're going to get, should I do it? I'll just tell you now. This comes out of Warehouse C, which is actually the story that Logan from Basement Rickhouse is going to tell us during the Bourbon Bomb of the Week. This comes out of Warehouse C. They also released a bottle recently that is called Colonel E.H. Taylor Warehouse C. It just says Warehouse C on it. And now they're selling it as a whole different bottle and everybody's hunting it. Oh, I got to get Warehouse C. Why? Everything from E.H. Taylor, from my understanding, at least pre-expansion project, comes out of Warehouse C. So why are you hunting Warehouse C? Isn't it the same as a small batch? Am I wrong there? Somebody please tell me if I'm wrong. Or if it's... I think Buffalo Trace is one of the best companies when it comes to marketing their products. I don't think that they're specifically holding back product to create a demand for it. I don't think that they're doing that. Now, maybe they are. A lot of people think that they are. I don't think that. I think that they're going to... Because I think people are going to buy it whether it's 100 bottles on the shelf or 1,000 bottles on the shelf. I think people are going to buy it because it's damn good bourbon. But a name change from the same juice that's coming out of the same warehouse, just calling it that. It's not barrel proof. It's not barrel strength. It's not a single barrel. It's not a rye instead of it's just Warehouse C. Interesting, right? Anyway, I digress. Drinkability on this is fantastic. I'm going to give it a great score on drinkability. 8.85. 8.85. See what I mean by 2 decimals? Before I would have done 8.8 or 8.9. We're going 8.85. 8.85 when it comes to drinkability, and I think that it's fair. I don't think it deserves to be quite in the 9s. There's a little bit of kick from this. I think the sweetness definitely helps balance out that ethanol kick. But for 100 proof bottled and bond, it sips very easy. 8.85 is where we're going to put it. Now I'm going to pause the video right here because if you stuck around this long, I want to make sure you guys get something special, get involved somehow. Because I've seen a lot of my videos, they cut off at like that 5, 6, 8 minute mark, somewhere in that middle. It's usually about 50%. I don't know if that's true for most bourbon YouTubers or for most YouTubers in general, if that 50% mark's about right. But if you've stuck around this long, I want to give you a little reward. So I have some props in here, right? A little bit of skulls, some pumpkins, some spooky stuff going on in the background, right? I'm going to step out of scene. I want you guys to try to guess how many things are in. I'm going to give you like 10 seconds to look around. Pause the video if you really want to. Look around, see what you can see in the scene. If it's Halloween related, skulls, pumpkins, spooky ghosts, some cool things. There's one that's hiding a little bit harder than the rest, but I'm giving you a hint. Here's 2 right here. So see how many you can get. I'm going to give you 10, 15 seconds. Well, I'll give you 10 seconds because you can pause the video. See how many you can get. Comment down below how many different things you found. Let's do this. So you tell me, how many did you find? I'm going to give you the hard one. This one's kind of hiding over here. All right. So if you didn't count that one, add one more to your count. Other than that, the rest they're a little hard to find, but they're up here. Some pumpkins, some ghosts, some skulls, all kinds of stuff. So put that in the comment section below how many you found. But let's get into, what are we on? Taste on this. Taste on this is where this bottle is going to struggle a little bit, at least for me. Now, it's a great tasting bourbon. It's your very traditional bourbon flavors. I get a little bit of raisin on the front of this, a little bit of sweetness with the raisin, plum, something like that. You get nuttiness on the end of this, kind of in the middle. Not much of a rye spice like we already talked about. There's a little bit of a low rye mash bill going on here. There's a little bit of a kick, like an allspice or a cinnamon, but nothing crazy. You definitely get a little bit of that spice though. And then it definitely moves right into, it's at least 4 years old. We know that because it's bottled and bond. If you don't know the 4 rules for bottled and bond, you can look them up. I'll just tell you right now. It's got to be 100 proof exactly. You got to be at least 4 years old. Got to be aged by 1 distillery and 1 distilling location and 1 distilling season. And it's got to be aged in a government bonded warehouse. So it's got to have oversight on it. Those are the 4 rules. And they cover all of those in this bottle, obviously, which is why they put bottled and bond on it. So you get into a little bit of an age thing here. Is it probably closer to the 4-year mark than like a 12-year bourbon? Maybe. I don't know. I'm going to guess that 6 to 8 year range if I had to guess. I'm not positive on that, though. Non-age stated, obviously. But it does have like a little bit of oak, a little bit of tobacco at the end there. And it's got a pretty good finish. But again, it's nothing. It's your generic bourbon flavors. It's vanilla caramel oak. That's what it is. You know, the raisins there. A little bit of nuttiness, like maybe like an extra maltiness to this. It's not quite like a Jim Beam nuttiness, but you get a little something on the end there. I don't hate the flavor profile, but it's not exuberant. It doesn't stand out and doesn't punch you in the face. It's I don't want to say it's thin because it's not thin, but it's definitely not like a robust punch in the face flavor as well. So for taste on this, I don't want to give it a bad score, but I don't want to give it like the greatest score ever either. I'm going to give this like a let's think. Let's go 7.24. 7.24 is going to be where we're going to put this on taste. Again, nothing crazy good, nothing crazy bad. It's kind of just your generic bourbon flavors. If this was more readily available, especially when we're going to get into price on this, this would be what I would recommend to every beginner bourbon drinker. And that's kind of what this is. It's your it's the low end, if you can call Buffalo Trace stuff low end products. But as far as like the Colonel E.H. Taylor stuff goes, the small batch is like the low end. It's the most available. It's the most abundant. It's not your single barrel or your rye or your warehouse C or your barrel proof. You know what I mean? This is going to be the one that's most readily available, and it's the quote-unquote low end of the shelf when it comes to the E.H. Taylor line. So 7.2, what did I say? 7.24 is where we're going to put this when it comes to taste. And last but not least, like I already mentioned, this comes in at $40, which is a steal if you ask me for this bottle. An absolute steal. Again, if this was more readily available, we would definitely be daily drinking this. I always do like to have a backup bottle, which is why I just kept that little bit, you know, get the cork wet when I need to make sure nothing goes wrong with that. By the way, that's if you have a lot of bourbon like me and you don't drink it every single bottle all the time, every once in a while, turn your bottles upside down, get that cork wet. Otherwise, it's going to dry out. It's going to shrink up. It's going to let more air into that product, and it's going to make your product go bad a little bit quicker. Now that it's technically going bad, you can still drink it, but it'll lose that flavor. It'll lose a little bit of, a little bit will evaporate. But down here in my basement, it stays pretty cool, pretty dry, obviously dry. But like I said, once you open them up a little bit, just flip that bottle every once in a while. A little trick I learned. Somebody taught me. But for this price, $40, you really can't beat it at all. It's a great price. It's actually a fantastic price. For what you're getting here, Buffalo Trace, 100 proof, bottled in bond. It is a low rye. We talk about how rye is more expensive than corn, so it's definitely not more expensive when it comes to the mash bill. But you got to look at what Buffalo Trace has done, the history behind it, the namesake. You know you're going to get a quality bourbon. It's going to be very similar every time you drink it. Obviously not exactly the same because batch to batch can't be the exact same. But when they small batch these, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to give you consistency, and you're definitely going to get that with a distillery like Buffalo Trace. So I'm going to give this a 9.46. 9.46, not quite a 9.5. I don't think it deserves to be a 9.5, but 9.46 is one of the better scores that we've gotten on price because it's just a fantastic pour. It's easy to drink, and at $40, you really can't beat this price. 9.46 is where we're going to put this when it comes to price. So I told you I would finish this bottle before the end of the episode, so let's finish this, but in the meantime, let's send it over to this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week and talk to Logan from the Basement Rickhouse to hear his personal story about a spooky experience he had at Buffalo Trace. Let's do this.
Ghost story time. In 2015, as a hobby, I went to work for the oldest continuously operated distillery in the United States, Buffalo Trace. The distillery dates all the way back to 1786 and has had no shortage of weird stuff to happen. Now, I've always been a skeptic when it comes to ghost stories, always trying to find the logical explanation of any ghost story. But here's one that I can't explain. In the first couple of weeks of working for the distillery as a tour guide, I shadowed other tour guides as I began to craft my own tour. One of the most famous buildings on the ground is Warehouse C, a barrel storage building built in 1885. On a random Saturday, I was following a tour guide and his guest in the middle of the day. He was going through his spiel and I was in the back of the group. On the floor above us, though, I heard this loud clunk, the sound of two barrels clinking together. Or so I thought. The sound was followed by a child's laugh. Now, I wasn't the only one that heard this. Multiple people looked up between the floorboards trying to determine what that sound was. Again, being the logical person that I am, my thought was, how cool, somebody brought their kid to work today. Within 5 minutes, the sound happened again. Clunk, followed by what sounded like a little girl laughing, and then little footsteps running down the hall of the warehouse. Again, multiple people looked up. My thoughts, employee and their child. After the tour, I approached the manager asking if I could go interview the warehouse employee to get the info for the tour. She said the barrel team doesn't work on the weekends. I still explained what I'd heard. She reached down into her desk and pulled out a file. In that file were multiple pictures captured on multiple cell phones of all the guests that had visited. And these pictures showed a figure, not a person, but a figure of a small girl in a white dress. Multiple pictures, different dates, different guests. My jaw dropped. She then proceeded to tell me about Albert Blanton's niece. Yeah, that Blanton, who died way too early in life, not too far from the distillery. She always came to her uncle's distillery and played in and out of all the buildings. Apparently, some portion of her's still there. Here's to all the other spirits at that distillery. Cheers.
So I'm not one myself to believe in ghosts, but when it comes to Buffalo Trace, there are too many stories from too many people to not believe what's going on over there. That's one I haven't heard before. Obviously, that's his personal experience. I'm not going to tell that man he's lying. If that's what he heard, that's what he heard. And that's scary as, pardon my French, that's scary as shit. I don't like ghosts. I don't want to believe in them, but at the same time, if I had an experience like that, it would be hard to deny. What else is hard to deny is how good this bourbon is, and this came in at a 8.51666666, which is the devil's number. Is that spooky because it's a Halloween edition? It wasn't done on purpose, I can promise you that. We'll call it an 8.52, which is exactly where this bottle deserves to be. Above average, absolutely, but not quite at the top, not quite there. There are definitely a lot of bottles better than this. I don't know if there's a lot of bottles better than this for $40 though. Again, right now we have what, Henry McKenna 6-year or 10-year single barrel sitting at the top, which is cheating kind of because it's a single barrel and I didn't want to do single barrels. But that's at the top at $50 and this is $40, so there are a lot of good bourbons in that price range. This one just happens to be one of my more favorite. I know there are a lot of people that don't like E.H. Taylor. That's fair. There's a lot of people that like Elijah Craig too, and I'm not a big fan of it. At least not their 18-year and their barrel proof and their small batch, which is everything that they have. That's nothing on Heaven Hill. I like a lot of their other products. But for this, not a bad spot for this at all. Right in the upper echelon of things, but not quite pushing the top. I think that's where we're going to keep it for today. Make sure you check me out on Instagram, like I already mentioned, at Bourbon of the Week. Every Tuesday at 4 p.m. I drop an image of the bourbon that we're going to review. You can go on and try and guess my score. If you guess the closest, I'll give you a shout out on the channel as well as enter you in a monthly drawing. I've just gotten so used to saying that I have to say it. Also, make sure you click that like, make sure you click that subscribe button. We are pushing 1,500 subscribers somehow already. We're going to do our 1,000 subscriber live, I promise you. But if we keep growing at this rate, we're going to have to do 1,000 and 2,000 all in one clip. I don't know if I'm going to celebrate 1,500 yet. Do we celebrate 1,500? You let me know. But that's where we're going to leave it for today. Don't drink and drive, drink responsibly, and as always, stay healthy, stay happy, stay drinking. Cheers, y'all. I did promise you I would finish this, so let's do it. Drink responsibly.